Welcome to Final Punchline, a long-form dad joke podcast, Season 1. Episode 2 is titled Stable Condition. It's written by Danny Hoots and narrated by August Sargenti. Final Punchline's audio engineer is Patrick Sokol and is produced and directed by Yoon. Final Punchline's available on Apple and finalpunchline.com. Now sit back, relax, and listen for the Final Punchline.
Mrs. Marshall sat in the waiting room, sliding her thumb on the screen of her phone. This wasn't the first time she was in this mess, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. Her son Philip had gotten into trouble yet again. He must have been playing some games of his and accidentally swallowed something. It was a bigger problem when he was younger, but now that he was in middle school, Mrs. Marshall didn't know what to do. He shouldn't have been sticking things in his mouth and swallowing them. She sighed as she looked through her friends' photos on Instagram. There were photos of their child's sports games, dance recitals, having fun at the beach. What was she going to post? That her son was in the hospital getting some plastic horses taken out of his digestive system? Getting out of the app, she couldn't be too disappointed with her son. He did well in school, had a lot of friends, and was quite talented at painting as well. He just didn't phase out of the whole stuffing toys into his mouth, leading them to hospital visits, not to mention hospital bills. Her husband and the boy's father was working overtime to help pay for it all. Hopefully, the insurance would cover it again, even though it was the third time this year. Opening her web browser, she searched for a child counselor. It was apparent she wasn't going to be able to help her son. And perhaps there was another reason he kept doing this. As she searched, a nurse came out to the waiting area. "Mrs. Marshall?" Mrs. Marshall stood up. "Yes? The doctor wants to speak to you now." Mrs. Marshall followed the nurse through the maze of hallways and desks. Mrs. Marshall hoped they would help her leave, because she always got turned around. They made it to the room, and Mrs. Marshall found that her son Philip wasn't in there yet. Before she could ask the nurse where her son was, the nurse spoke. "Please, wait here for the doctor." The nurse shut the door, and Mrs. Marshall took a seat in one of the uncomfortable chairs. It was better than sitting on the table covered in paper, however. She fidgeted, unsure why her son wasn't in the room with her. Was he all right? Did something happen? Would he have to be held here overnight? It had been a simple procedure, or at least it had been every other time he came in. She glanced at the clock, which always made time go by slower. Where was the doctor? What were they not telling her? 10 minutes went by, and Mrs. Marshall pondered on whether or not she should go out and ask a nurse what was going on. Surely, if her son was in danger, they would tell her right away, right? Pulling out her phone, she texted her husband. "They brought me to another room, but I'm still waiting. I'm not sure what is going on." "It's fine. They would come straight to you if something was wrong. How long have you been waiting?" She checked the clock again. 15 minutes now. "They're probably just behind. You know how the hospital is." That she did. She put away her phone. Talking to him didn't help, as she had had a bad feeling in her gut. Why did they bring her back here if they weren't ready for her? Typically, after they extracted whatever Philip had swallowed, they took her to the outpatient room where he was coming out of the anesthesia. Today, however, was different, and that was what worried her the most. Another 5 minutes passed, and the door finally opened. The doctor stepped in. "Hello, Mrs. Marshall. I'm Dr. Ma. I was the one who performed your son's surgery today." Mrs. Marshall stood up and shook the doctor's hand. "It is a pleasure to meet you, Dr. Ma. Is my son okay?" Yes, I've come to talk to you about what I found. Please, sit." She sat down, unsure what he meant by what he found. Was there something more going on, or did he simply mean about what he accidentally ate? Dr. Ma pulled up a chair and typed on his computer. "You will see in the x-rays that young Philip swallowed a total of 8 plastic horses." 8? Mrs. Marshall couldn't believe her son had not only swallowed a plastic horse, but 8? "Were you able to extract them all? Is he all right?" Dr. Ma waved his hand as if this was no big deal. Yes, I was able to extract all the horses. Your son is in stable condition."
This has been Final Punchline. Thank you for listening. Please visit our website at finalpunchline.com. We'll be back next week.